Hi, we're Garbage. Hello to our fans around the world. We're happy you tuned into Ustream for this live chat. We're happy to be premiering our video for Blood for Poppies today on AOL Music and Spinner. Before we play the video, we're going to take questions. Thank you.
Oh, Jen's giving us a cut signal here.
You're live.
Okay, start over.
Hi, we're Garbage. Hello to our fans around the world. We're happy you tuned into Ustream for this live chat. We're happy to be premiering our video for Blood for Poppies today on AOL Music and Spinner. Before we play the video, we're going to take questions from you, our fans, that we collected from our Facebook page. And don't forget, our album comes out May 14th around the world and here in the USA on May 15th.
Well done, Steve.
Thank you very much.
Very good, very good.
All right, so the first question is from Jansen's Freak, and he wants to know, what have each of you done during the past years and the long period that Garbage was not active?
Well, it was a long time off. We took almost a 7-year break from the end of the last tour until the new album is coming out. I got back in the studio and made some records. I worked with Muse and Green Day and the Foo Fighters, and I am raising a daughter, which is the craziest job I've ever had. And it's keeping me busy.
I've got a daughter too, and that does take a lot of your time. And besides that, just been working on music in the home studio and recording by myself and with some other people. But
that's funny.
I
Recording
guess
by
that was.
himself, that's funny.
I guess that was pretty funny. And just kind of getting ready to get back in the studio with these clowns.
My name is Shirley. I do not have any children. I spent the last 7 years.
Why did you look at me after you said children?
I don't really know what I've been doing. I mean, it's a long time. 7 years is a long time, and there's so much happened. But we spent our time basically living life, and then we were ready to record a record, and here we are. Duke, what have you done for the last 7 years?
Recording by myself.
That sounds so rude.
Just various projects and living life, as you well put it. And we're happy to be back.
Next question.
So Mark is wondering, what new musical influences have inspired you as a band during the making of this new record?
Ooh. Well, I would answer that question by saying it wasn't so much new musical influences that influenced me personally. I just went back to sort of listening to records by all the artists that had originally got me excited about making music. And so I went back to all my old David Bowie records, my Susie Sue records, and Cocteau Twins records, people like that, all these people that really built my sort of musical fabric, for want of a better expression.
I think we're all constantly listening to music, so it's just, we're all constantly writing music, and so it just kind of sort of comes natural at this point. We have no other choice. That's all we know.
I listened a lot to the first album by Suicide, and if you listen closely, you'll hear some little influences sneaking into some of the new songs. And I listened to a lot of prog rock too, and you'll also hear some prog rock on the new Garbage album.
Awesome. So Andrew in Dublin wonders, the artwork for your albums have always been a real visual treat, the singles carrying a similar aesthetic for each era. How did you come up with the album art for the Not Your Kind of People cover?
Take it away, Duke.
Yeah, that was mostly you that arranged all the artwork.
Oh, I don't know if that's strictly true.
We're gonna have an argument right
Yeah,
here.
let's have an argument. This is a garbage argument right here.
Well, we knew we wanted to keep it simple. I think our favorite album covers of our past have been the first two records that were really simple and evocative, and we found someone who thought could help us.
And we had a really talented designer called Ryan Corey that we worked really closely with. And
Jerry Hyde.
Jerry Hayden from Smog Design here in Los Angeles, and they were local and fantastic. They could pop over to the studio and show us an array of things, you know, on directions we could have gone down, but I think we all responded to the simplicity of bringing back the garbage G, and we loved the hand painted, really simple ink G that Ryan came up with. I think we were all a little sick of a lot of the artwork out there right now that's just really loud and generated on a computer, and this has been all hand done, and it's very simple, and so we just loved it.
Yeah, our first two albums were, the artwork for our first two albums were us sitting on the floor of the lounge of the studio, like piecing together stuff using glue and pulling it apart again and starting over again, and we kind of wanted this album to look that way as well.
It's kind of a process like our music, where we go through a million ideas and we try all these different things, and gradually the strongest thing wins out.
And we did work with Autumn de Wilde, the very talented photographer here in LA who did all the photography, so she was also really inspiring to work with. Anybody else got anything to add?
I like the bones.
The bones.
Bones.
I like the bones.
Nobody's seen the bones yet. So.
Okay, you're going
You
to
will
see
see the
bones.
bones.
So we've had a small request just for you guys to speak a little bit louder.
Okay.
And the next question's from Ricardo G. And they were wondering...
Hi, Ricardo.
He was wondering what was the most challenging part of making this album compared to any past ones, or how the process differed or anything.
I think probably the most challenging part of the album was just getting us in the studio. Once we actually spent our first week together at a studio called The Pass, we all felt really jazzed, and very quickly all these songs started falling into our lap. And I think sometimes when you're away from each other, not working in your head, you probably put obstacles up because you don't know what to expect. And we were much relieved to find that there really wasn't any tension, and there were really no obstacles. And because of that, I think we felt really, really creative. And we probably wrote something like 24, 25 songs, you know, over the space of 4 or 5 months. And I think probably the funnest aspect of that was because we were free agents, so to speak. We weren't signed to a label, and there was nobody telling us what we could or couldn't do. We felt pretty free, and as I said, the songs came really, really quickly.
So did recording in California have any influence on the album of the sound of the album, or any particular tracks? And do you think that the recording environment plays a part in the album sound at all?
Ooh.
Seems like no matter where we are recording, we end up in some windowless basement room, and it almost doesn't matter where we are. I don't think, you know, the songs aren't all about sunshine and surfing, and they weren't about the Packers when we were in Wisconsin.
We should write more songs about the Packers, I think.
Or get some windows.
It's, you know, we recorded the bulk of the record on a tiny little studio in the Atwater Strip in East Los Angeles. And it's very funky and very bohemian, and in a way I think it kind of fit the process, which was kind of guerrilla style, you know, since we're doing it ourselves, and just, we all kind of live in different places. Shirley and I live in Los Angeles, but Duke and Steve live out of town. We would work on some ideas and things at our own studios and bring them into our engineer Billy's studio and put them together. And we spent a lot of time in Billy's studio, and it was very tiny, and there was no room to escape from each other. Literally, it's not much bigger than the couch we're sitting on. And I think that was really a good thing, because every decision, anytime someone came up with a part, we were all right there. And so I think it made things faster in some ways. You know, someone doesn't disappear or wander into the other room or another part of the studio. And when you're in each other's space like that, the decision-making process happens really quickly, and that's a good thing.
So Mark is wondering if you can describe a typical day in the studio, if there's such a thing as a typical day.
There is no real typical day in Garbage, to be honest. Every day is a new day and a fun day. And yeah, we don't really have a routine. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I mean, other than when we're going to go for a coffee break or a tea break, but that's...
And even that was kind of random.
It's pretty random too.
Actually, sometimes our day would be dictated by my dog's peeing schedule. That had some influence on our routine. Other than that, I would say it was different every single day.
Pretty much what I base my day around.
In the good old days, it used to be based around our visits to the bar. So we'd go, go out to lunch, later go to the bar, and then we'd quit working so we could go back to the bar. But these days, it's a lot more sort of like stay there and get the work done.
We did spend an astounding amount of time at the bar.
It's unbelievable.
I mean, really unbelievable when you think about it. I mean, people always used to sort of talk about the band, about how long we took making records. I mean, people would always say, God, they take years to make records. What's wrong with these people? But the truth of it was that actually we spent most of the time in the bar.
Socializing.
Running up gigantic tabs.
We'd all be living in bigger houses if it wasn't for those bar tabs, that's for sure.
I think that on version 2.0, I think the
Well, don't.
I
I
won't
don't
even
think you
say,
should say that.
but the bar tab was a large percentage of our budget on the album, which is kind of sad to say. At the time, it was necessary.
It turned out pretty well, though.
It did.
Money well spent.
Yes.
So Mike is wondering, with this album, you're putting it out on your own as opposed to being with a record label. Could you talk a little bit about what you hope to avoid or to accomplish by doing that, and has it been what you expected, and are you happy with how everything's going?
I think we're amazed at how well it's going and how much fun it is again. We started off on a real indie small label where there were like 3 acts on the label and we were one of them, and we knew everybody and there weren't really any big expectations about what we were going to do. And it was fun and creative, and then we kind of lost that as time went on, and now we're back to that again, and it's fun again, and we're excited. Nobody's expecting us to go out and conquer the world, and it's going really well so far, and
I think sort of alluding to what Steve said, it is really exciting for us to be sort of hands-on again, because that's how we started out, and then over the course of 4 records you just get so busy and so tired sometimes that you start letting little details fall by the wayside. And honestly, all of us really sort of embrace details and all the different parts of the band, and we kind of multitask in a way, which I think is good. Each of us on any particular day can sort of dive into a different area that needs to that needs attention. But I will say this, it is a lot of work and a lot of attention, and that is the kind of scary thing when you realize all the responsibility now is on our collective shoulders, and so we've got to keep really focused, and we're going to try and do that.
So Diz is wondering, he says he noticed that the single is a lot more upbeat than your usual style, and he was wondering if this was a conscious decision on the band's part, or if you're just in a happier place and those feelings are coming out organically through your music.
That's a lovely question. Duke?
Thank you. That was a lovely question. Well, we're glad that you think it sounds upbeat. I think it's certainly different than anything else we've done in the past. Just rhythmically, I think even lyrically, we're very happy with it. Steve came up with that killer guitar riff at the top, and that always grabs people.
I think a lot of people have been responding to the sound of the new record, and they keep saying to us, God, it sounds like when your first record came out. And I think one of the reasons for that is when we got together, the 4 of us, we just felt really free, and I think all the stress that had accumulated maybe over the last couple of years before we took some time off had sort of lifted, and the general feeling when we were in the studio together was playful. I mean, I don't think anybody took everything seriously. Everybody was just willing to see what we came up with, and could we come up with a good sound that excited us, and maybe that's what people are responding to. At least that's my theory.
Good theory.
Thanks, man.
So Marcus is wondering, was it difficult to decide which tracks made the final cut of the album after going through the process of recording?
Yeah, that's always difficult. I think it was probably more difficult this time because we had so many songs, And I think it was maybe the last 3 months or something, or last few weeks, where we actually realized we had better narrow it down to 10 or 11 songs. So I guess we just voted, didn't we? Or something like that. I think it was pretty obvious for the most part.
You never really
For the
know.
best.
You never really know what's going to make it on the record, though. So, if we were working on 25 songs, at any moment one of those songs can kind of shift into high gear, and somebody will do a new part or come up with a new sound or do a brilliant vocal on it or whatever that'll suddenly shift that song in from the back burner into the front running for the album, and that kind of keeps it exciting, because you never really know.
If we'd have worked another week, we could have a whole different batch of songs.
That's true.
And I think one of the ways that we sort of went through the process of picking the songs is just trying to see what songs kind of speak to each other in a way, either sort of thematically or sonically. And they don't always have to be really tied to each other, but sometimes just having little threads so they kind of feel connected, because we wanted to make an album. We just didn't want to write a single or two and then put some songs that we didn't care about on there. And it was hard, because I think we feel attached to all of the music that we've written, and what we're hoping to do is all of the songs are going to come out sometime in the next year and a half, and we want to find a home for them, whether we give them away on our website or get them into a film or something. We want them to all come out, so that's the plan.
So Jamie asked that he noticed that there was a strong theme of war, at least in the tracks Blood for Poppies and Battle in Me. He was wondering if you could talk a little bit about that, and in particular, are you declaring war against the state of pop music?
Well, first of all, I mean, you're right. There are a couple of references, I guess, to war. I think that's more to do with the idea of it being a struggle to be a human being in the world. It's something we don't necessarily talk about, but I think just in general, to be a human being alive, which is amazing, is also tricky a lot of the time. Like, how do you manage to navigate your life? How do you balance your work with your pleasure? How do you raise your children well? How do you take care of yourself? I don't know, there's a lot of things, I think, that create struggle inside you as a person, and those themes are more what we're dealing with on the record than literal themes of going to war. I don't think any of the four of us would ever declare war on anybody or anything, really. It's not really our style. But I don't know if that answers that question in an even remotely articulate way. Does anybody understand what the hell I'm talking about?
Yeah,
I did.
So Jim
No
has Jim D has questions for each of you. For Shirley, he wonders, what lyric do you like or love most on the new album?
Well, I guess I'm really hooked on the title I Hate Love, just because it's such a provocative title, and I always think it's great to play with words, and when you effectively come up with something so simple that makes a provocative statement, this, just for me as a person, it's sort of great fun. My dad's 74, and he called me up a few months ago or weeks ago when we put the album track listing on the website. My dad called me up and took great umbrage at the title I Hate Love. And he said, I think it's disgusting that you have written a song called I Hate Love. And I had to say to my dad, well, Dad, have you even heard the song? Which of course he hadn't. And but it was really great to know that a 74-year-old can still plug in to what's going on in culture and fight against it.
And you can still upset your dad.
I can still upset my dad! Woohoo! But just to clarify, I Hate Love is not a declaration against love by any stretch of the imagination. It's quite the opposite. It's more to do with railing against fake love, phony love.
Cool. So he was wondering for Butch, what was it like to go from the stripped down kind of analog recording with Foo Fighters and others that you work with to the more heavily computer oriented album like Not Your Kind of People?
Well, in a way,
the relief.
One of the things that I took from working with the Foos was when you record on tape, it's all about performance. You can't fix it. You can't move things around. You can't make alternate playlists. You have to sort of commit to a performance, and then if you don't get it, you just got to go again. You're going to erase the previous one, so there's no going back. And it really, I think, in a way, brings out the best in musicians when they're sort of forced to really perform at a top level. And we kind of embrace that on this record. The tracks are, Shirley mentioned it earlier, they're kind of playful, and I think they're looser and rougher sounding. We didn't fix things as much. We still did it using Pro Tools, which we love, but we used a lot of old school analog gear, and like some of the drums I did with 4 microphones set up in the den in my downstairs in my house. And it's just like a 10 by 12 room with rectangular room with drywall, and it sounds cool. It sounds kind of vibey and trashy, and rather than get a perfect drum sound in a really expensive Hollywood studio, it just made sense for this record. And there's a lot of the vocals that Cheryl did were first take things, and she was just doing a handheld mic sitting on the couch. In the past, we probably would have gone back and fixed things and manipulated them a lot more, and we left this record rougher sounding. And I think that is what also Cheryl said, that a lot of people have responded to the vibe of the record, that it sounds like our first album. And looking back at our first album, we did that on analog tape, and we had a couple samplers, but that was also done kind of guerrilla style. And the first record sounds kind of weird to me. And the energy on this new record sounds like that first record, even though it sounds 2012. It doesn't sound like the first record, but the vibe is similar. And so I think there's a spirit in it that we all put into it. And some of that I will say I was inspired from working with the Foo Fighters.
And for Duke, he's wondering, what song on the album are you excited to start playing live?
Well, I'm just kind of disappointed that we haven't worked up more of the new songs so far, but we're doing 4 of the new ones, and they all sound really great. I think Battle in Me is probably my favorite to play. I hope that as the tour progresses, we're going to filter more and more of the new songs into the live show. But it's been 7 years since we've been out playing, so it's been a bit of a challenge just to learn the old ones, right, Cheryl?
Yeah, sure has.
But it's coming along. It's starting to gel again, so it's all going to be fun. I think getting away from playing the old songs tour after tour, getting away from doing that has helped too. So even those songs feel fresh to us again, and we're messing a bit with the arrangements of the old songs, changing things up a bit.
And then for Steve, he's asking, what items on your pedal board or gear rack do you love the most, and what's most important to your sounds?
What a sexy question.
Why don't we ask the nerd?
Rather personal.
Very personal.
Your new guitars are pretty awesome.
I got a new guitar or 2 that we'll be taking out, and I'm really excited about trying those out. And I don't know, I hate that question because
I love that question.
I love that you have to answer.
I know.
We sort of, we're not really that much about the gear and how that's going to affect what we're doing. I think we try to, to sort of wrestle the gear into submission, and in a lot of instances it
wrestles us into submission.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
But we're using a lot of Line 6 pods live.
What are your
And they've
serial
got,
numbers?
I can't tell you. And those are sounding really awesome. So I guess we're excited about trying those out live. And got a new little keyboard. It's going to be really cool.
So this is a question for all of you. What are you most looking forward to about being on the road, and is there anything that you're not looking forward to?
The bus.
You're looking forward to the bus?
The bus, yeah. Can't wait to
Are
be
you
on
looking
that.
forward to the chemical toilets at the
And
backstage
the
in
chemical
100-degree
toilets,
heat in the festivals? It's always a nice touch.
No, seriously, I think we're having great fun in rehearsal, and I think it's going to be fun to play for fans. We're excited to hear that shows are selling out. We would have never imagined that we would have this kind of reaction, so we're very excited. I think just the shows That's always been the favorite hour of the day.
That's what
Everything
keeps you
else
going.
around that is kind of dealing with being on the road, unless you're in some fabulous city, which you can explore if you have a day off or something.
I think it's true,
Go ahead.
right? We were so taken aback by the
Yeah.
fans' response to us coming together and putting out a record.
We never thought we'd be doing this.
So thank you to you
Yes.
all, whoever is tuned in right now. Thank you so much
anyone.
for injecting us with some excitement, enthusiasm. But I'm personally dreading the deli trays that get left backstage on a daily basis, which are full of sweaty meats
Sweaty meat.
and cheeses, dried cheese and
Sweaty
sweaty
cheese.
meats.
So we just have a couple more before we'll start talking about the video a little bit. Do you feel that the touring around the globe has changed your perception on life at all, and has it influenced your songwriting? Do you get inspired by the music of other cultures?
Ooh.
We've been incredibly lucky to be able to go to, I think we've been to however many countries it is, but it's a huge number, and most of which we never would have been able to go to were it not for the band. So, for me, that's one of the best things about the whole garbage experience. And yeah, you can't help but get influenced by the different cultures, and you listen to music all the time. And I think mainly it kind of reminds you that it is actually a pretty small world, and there's a lot more that we all have in common than a lot of the differences that people like politicians try to convince us that we all have.
Well said.
Well said,
Thank you.
Steve. A
Thank
very
you.
passionate and moving speech.
So Julian's wondering, coffee or tea, with milk or without, 1 lump or 2
Ooh.
for each of you.
Dude.
So he knows what to
All
bring you
these personal
backstage.
questions. Tea, no lumps.
I am tea in the morning, coffee for the rest of the day. 0 sugar for me.
Coffee, soy milk.
Really, is that true?
All these years, we had no idea. We had no idea.
This is true. Why would I say it if it wasn't true?
You take soy milk?
I do.
Does anybody else recognize this?
No.
Not in a million years.
No.
I think
Maybe-
black coffee.
He usually drinks it black.
He does.
Any more questions?
Stevie's confused. Booch?
Well, I like coffee, followed by another coffee, followed by espresso, followed by cappuccino, followed by coffee, followed by another espresso. But recently, I'm trying to cut back to just 1 or 2 coffees and more, and then I have a green tea in the afternoon.
How about that thing you were guzzling yesterday at rehearsal?
Yes, just ignore everything I said. I had some triple shot frappuccino thing, and they put whipped cream on it, which normally I would not eat, but I ate the whole thing. Got this incredible caffeinated sugar buzz that got me through rehearsal.
Yeah.
Like we powered through rehearsal, and I nailed Bad Boyfriend.
Woo!
yesterday.
Yes, you
Yeah.
did.
And that is a
Awesome.
killer
Then
song
you fell
to play.
asleep in the car on the way home.
Ready for bed.
So, as you guys know, we're about to premiere the Blood for Poppies music video.
Yay.
Anything you guys want to say to set it up before we let it roll?
Well, this is our first video back in 5 years, right? And we made it with a young, very young director from the UK called Matt Irwin, who has, I believe, never made a music video before. This is his first piece. It's fantastic. We had a blast making it with him, and we love it, and we hope you do too. And so this is the debut of our first song off our new record in 7 years, Blood for Poppies, by the wonderfully talented Garbage and Matt Irwin.